Welcome back to the Island of the Arts. I'm Oliver Luke Delory, and in this episode, we'll learn about the business of art through the eyes of artists themselves. Let's go.
There's a light in the dark, shining bright on the Isle of the Arts. An open mind, an open heart, let love rule on the Isle of the Arts. Tap into your creative spark, express yourself on the Isle of the Arts. Laugh and play, that's a start. Welcome to the Island of the Arts.
I'm not in it, obviously, for the money, because the conceptual aspect of the work is, it makes you think. It's not always as aesthetic as you might want to place in your living room. I don't pretend to make changes in this world, but you certainly should try to improve things generally. The market, the business of art is a tough one. You know, art people are very vulnerable and very sensitive. They're not business people generally. And so there's a quick pullback on dealing with gallery owners. And for myself, you know, I almost feel like I'm just beginning my career as far as exposing and exhibiting my work, because I really have only the last 10 years had the confidence and the time to start putting my work out in venues that have viewers and so on. And that's not so easy. Holy mackerel, it's really not easy. You have to be well networked. You have to, having said that, I'm a terrible person at networking. I can't even use the computer that well. And I do all sorts of missteps when I'm working with Instagram and all those other things. So I'm going to have to learn how to work all that. And I should say, but in the end, I'm more interested in finding connections through more municipal and public viewing opportunities. So I would be the person to write a grant, which I'm starting to learn how to do. Figure out how I'm going to transport this massive penny farthing to the sites I want it to go to have the best impact. Like this should be outside BC's women's studies. Outside, and then I should move it maybe 2 months later and put it to another university campus somewhere where young people are maybe seeing a statement, and it's okay to, you know, express those views.
I'm probably one of the most unsuccessful artists around, and probably will always be. If you want to put it in these terms, commercial, I have no skill at it at all. It's selling. Not that that's the be-all and end-all of commercial being, but I mean, I can't plead any kind of success in that realm of things. If, like, for instance, we can't live on far from it on anything that happens in this room. If making art like this had been something that I took up when I was young and stayed with it throughout and got positioned well in a few earlier places in life, because I think position is everything. You know, who you meet, who sponsors you, who notices you early on. This is often a matter of chance, really. I don't complain about that now. I have at certain times in the past, you know. But I've been fortunate, way too fortunate in other ways, you know, that I have food on the table. But I don't foresee a time in my life, in my practice as an artist, where I'm going to be widely known or widely lauded. I don't know things make up success in that sense. Recognized by those who come and, you know, just look around. Sure.
The business of art, I feel like at the age and the stage that I'm at now that I'm kind of pulling back and away from that, and just really deciding how I want to feel and what I really want to be doing. And what I really want to be doing is in here. I'm really not that interested in putting myself out there anymore. Of course, I need to do that a little bit, but I think my art has evolved the way my life has. You know, like I was very, very busy and very successful, and I was a very busy teacher for a very long time. And now my life has quieted down quite a bit, but it is largely because I want to be painting. I do love to teach. It is such an amazing thing and such a completely on purpose place for me. But the thing that draws me into my work now is a feeling of being connected to the sacred in the world around me, and the sacred that happens within my studio space, and the quiet and the stillness that I create here. And I want to access that voice now. I would rather be here and be still, moving a crayon around on an old piece of paper, than spending hours and hours on social media. Posting. And so, you know, and I think that's the same for many artists, you know, as you evolve personally, you know, into a more thoughtful life experience, your work changes.
I've never been very good at it since the beginning when I started to make art videos more than 10 years ago. And then with my photography, I've had people make offers, and sometimes I think I would, you know, subconsciously ignore it because I don't know how to price things properly. I think that it's beneficial on the long run that people are buying art, of course. Like, my ultimate goal is to be able to live off of my art. However, it's a tricky situation. It's a tricky situation because sometimes I feel discouraged by the contemporary art world and selling because it's very like fashion or fad oriented, and who is it that determines what is valuable or not valuable? Like, I've seen some work of arts that are in contemporary art, and that for me is not very compelling. But apparently there's a whole collective mass that decides what is useful or what is valuable at the time. So yeah, I kind of steer away from that, because I even think about like the major artists that we know, some of them like Rothko, Van Gogh, Hilma af Klint, they died without recognition. And they're some of my biggest inspirations now. So wherever the mass tends to go regarding business and selling and arts, I usually tend to question it a little bit.
You know, I make stuff, and if somebody buys it, great, and if somebody doesn't like it, somebody's gonna get it as a present, right? Yeah, I think the best art is that which really comes out of who you are. And that can be, as an artist, I think that can be that level of vulnerability, putting that into your pieces, can be really frightening. But it can also be really liberating. So I'm at the point where I know the things that people like to buy from me, but I also, I just make what I make. I don't do a lot of commission work, because then I'm putting pressure on myself to make what somebody else expects, rather than making what's coming out of me. If someone wants commission work, I usually say, you know what, I have an idea of what you're looking at. Let me make some stuff, And if you like any of it, great. And if you don't, that's fine too. That takes the pressure off of me and the pressure off of them. And
it's pretty easy to do a lot of paintings and never share them with anyone. But to take that step to say, hey, maybe somebody else might find this interesting is definitely, I think, a threshold.
I think when you start really truly feeling like you're an artist, you're showing up every single day to do something with art, even if it's 20 minutes. And yeah, it might not be you're painting something, but you know, like I say, I'm all over the place with my art. So yeah, showing up every day and also not being scared to put yourself out there. Art's a scary business. Your art is being judged every day by people. And if you can get by that and just say, this is who I am, I think that's when you can say, yeah, I'm an artist.
I just felt that if I went out there and told people stories about the work that I did and what my work represented, that it wasn't about selling, it wasn't about marketing, it was about creating memories with people and for people. So that was my form of marketing, and it's continued to be that. I am trying to learn more. I'm trying to learn about social media. You know, I go through, I either binge on it and get myself out there, or I stop completely. So it's about feeling really secure in your art and being able to put it out there.
Some people don't consider themselves or are not considered artists until they have success selling. Marianne and I, when we moved here and we started blowing glass on a regular basis, our first rule is we have to make things go away because we're not going to fill our house with glass. That's affirming. When people come and look at what you make and they're pleased by it and they interact with you about it, that's one measure of creative success. Hey, I made something that pleases somebody else. The first measure, though, is I made something that pleases me, or us, in our case. When you make something, you always see the things that didn't, you know, the little flaws, the little things that didn't go quite the way you wanted. But when you get to the point where you see something, you say, wow, like, I don't think I can sell this for a while. I have to spend time with it. That to me is creative success. Making glass go away in our case, it's good because it feeds us so we can keep blowing, right? Photography is a different world for me. I mean, I haven't sold a photograph in 2 or 3 years. But the photos I take and what I do, I just do for me. And so fortunately, I'm not attaching creative success as a photographer to selling, or I'd be devastated. So I do that to please me, and once in a while it's really pleasurable to please somebody else. But you know, glass, we have glass in a couple of galleries and so on, and that it's one step removed from feeling successful because somebody else is selling it for you. But the monetary reward of it is feeds the soul some.
Well, it's very, very complex to price art. It's very difficult because, you know, there's years of different studies and my own growth as well, and all the materials, the studio to maintain the gallery. It's hugely costly, and I don't charge near enough to recoup any of that, and I just see it as one of my ways of contributing to society. So it is difficult to price work, and I just try to price it so it's affordable, so people can buy it and enjoy it. A large part of what my intention is and part of it is because of my own inner work with those spiritual essences that accompany me, is to speak openly about my intuitive relationship with the invisible world and all of those aspects of life, the multidimensionality of life and creativity. And to do that, to normalize it.
A lot of people just say their opinion, like it will not hurt your feelings. It does, because you've put your heart and soul into the pieces you're doing. However, you gotta have a thicker skin when it comes to things like that, because not everybody's gonna love your work. Not everybody's gonna feel the way you felt when you made it. You're gonna, again, get rejected to some expos, or you're not quite what people are looking for, or why did you do that? I don't understand that piece. And it gets me smiling again, because you kind of go, well, why do you think that way? And then they'll tell me and I'll just move on, because that took a long time to grow a thicker skin and be okay with where you're at now. I'm not snotty, I'm never rude. It doesn't get you anything, ever. I do things because they make me happy, or I'm feeling them at the time, or again, an idea came from somewhere else and I rolled with it this way and it's not at all what was supposed to happen, but it worked. So critiques are tricky. Like, some people can be really mean with their words, or harsh, or, you know, just, oh my God, I hate it, blunt. And at the same time, I get that smile, there it is, because it's like, okay, well, thanks for telling me, and move on. I don't know how else to explain it. It's a tricky topic.
Creativity and finances, for a lot of artists, don't mesh very well. Money and selling and all of that stuff it can be very rigid. You have to do certain things, and in order to be successful, there are ways to do it that you have more success, and you have to do it a certain way. I find it very hard. I often wish I had someone who could manage that side of it and I could just create, because it takes away from the creativity in the time of it, like from advertising to packaging to going to shows, like everything. Every artist has different ways of doing things. For me, for example, for a long time I was selling at art galleries and gift shops. How do you make a living? Art galleries want 50%. They want 50% of the retail price, right? They don't want you to change the price. So you have to take a hit of half on every piece that you sell. Excuse me, gift shops will go 60-40 split, but that's still 40%. And so for me, I can't do that. And every time I've sold with someone, I'm like, I will not sign anything that says I'm gonna keep the price the same in this shop and at my market table, because if I'm having the price at my market table in this shop, I'm basically spending half of my life energy for you, to pay your rent on your gallery, to pay your mortgage on something that I am creating from me, right? So I stopped doing that last year. So I can't do this anymore. It's so hard to get ahead. But then that means I have to sell just on my own. That also is very hard. And so right now I'm actually in a bit of a sales crux because of that. The pandemic has made sales events in person, they haven't been happening. They're just now starting to happen. Even last summer, at the beginning of market season, it was terrible. It was so slow because it was still, it was like, what was it? The beginning of the fourth wave or whatever. Like, it was still all COVID protocols. So I saw COVID has been really bad for me financially. I was able to use some government help, but that was still not even half of my monthly sales amount. So it's been really financially difficult. The injury and the pandemic, so bad. Like, what a time to choose to go out on my own. But right now for me, the struggle is the business side of it. I resent, it's too bad, but I resent any time that gets taken away from the creative aspect of it. So when I have to go online to list things for sale, when I have to go back and forth with people, when I have to sell stuff in shops, anything like that, I find I'm really hesitant to start because I don't want to do it. It's a necessary part of my business, but it is the part that is hardest for me. Actually, selling things at a market is very easy because I can talk with people and tell them a bit about the stuff, and for the most part, people seem to enjoy it, and so it's like, it can be pretty quick. It's kind of like a show. Like, I put on my sales persona, it's like, make a little show of it, make people laugh, everyone's having fun. That's great. But those kinds of events don't happen very often. In the meantime, Now that I'm no longer selling in shops because it's so difficult to make any money, now I have to figure out how to get those online sales and how to, I don't even have a website because I'm not so super computery, so I have to, I just basically have to bite the bullet and be like, I need to spend some time on the computer, getting myself set up, doing this grown-up stuff kind of thing. If I had money, I would just pay somebody. Absolutely. The problem with me is that because I'm doing it all myself, my resources are very limited, and everything takes a really long time to happen. So even getting the studio set up, this was supposed to have been done in November. I'm still not finished because there are so many things to happen. My injury has slowed me down. Like, for example, like all of these pieces had to be of a size that I could do it by myself. So I can't just put up a whole sheet of plywood. I had to reuse everything in such a way that I could handle it without re-hurting myself so slow. So I'm hoping in a week I'll be done in here and I can start making wares again. But then where am I going to sell them? The market season doesn't start for 2 weeks. So now I'm being like, okay, now I've got to do the online stuff and figure that out. So yeah, selling, the business side of it, I'm terrible at. Basically, I'm not the person to ask about how that goes well with art because for me it doesn't. I've been able to use my basic business skills to get by with art only because up until last year I had a job that paid the rent, and the art income helped and was half of my income but wasn't my whole income. Now that I'm solely an artist, I've got to get much better at the business side very quickly. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to be an artist. I'm just going to be someone who has a lot of pots.
What will the world be like when everyone is expressing themselves in creative ways? I'll see you here next time on the Island of the Arts.